The finality of death is a truth we all must face. The lowering of the casket, the scattering of earth, the silence that follows, these are the accepted rituals of farewell. But what happens when that silence is shattered? What happens when the dead reach out from beyond the grave, not in a ghostly apparition, but through the cold, impersonal technology of the living? Tonight, we unravel a modern nightmare, a chilling tale of a man buried and gone, whose digital echo refused to stay silent, sending messages from beyond the veil of death. The small, close-knit community of Blackwood Creek had rarely witnessed such a somber occasion. Arthur Jenkins, a respected figure in town, had succumbed to a sudden illness. The funeral was well attended, a testament to the impact he had on the lives around him. His wife, Eleanor, stood a figure of quiet grief, her hand resting on the polished mahogany of the coffin as it was lowered into the earth. His friends and neighbors offered their condolences, the air thick with unspoken sorrow and the finality of loss. Arthur's life, it seemed, had reached its definitive end. The gentle murmur of their sympathetic words, the quiet sniffles punctuating the solemn atmosphere, all underscored the community's collective mourning. The minister's eulogy spoke of Arthur's kindness, his unwavering integrity, and the void his absence would leave in their lives. Yet, beneath the veneer of traditional grief, a subtle disquiet lingered, an unspoken unease that would soon metastasize into full-blown terror. Arthur was meticulous in life, a man of routine and order. He always had his smartphone with him, a modern appendage that kept him connected to the world. It was a habit that even death could not immediately erase. In the days following the burial, Eleanor found Arthur's phone amongst his personal belongings. It was powered off, the screen dark, a silent relic of a life now extinguished. She intended to keep it, perhaps to look through old photos and messages later, a bittersweet connection to the man she had lost. The smooth, cool glass of the phone felt foreign in her hand, a stark contrast to the warmth of Arthur's touch she so desperately missed. Each icon, each familiar app, was a painful reminder of his digital presence, now abruptly silenced. The weight of the device felt heavier than its physical form, laden with unspoken words and unsent messages. 3 days after Arthur was laid to rest, Eleanor was sitting in the quiet solitude of her living room, the silence amplifying her grief. Suddenly, a faint, familiar chime echoed from the hallway. It was the notification sound of Arthur's phone. A jolt of disbelief shot through her. She hadn't charged it. She hadn't touched it since finding it. With trembling hands, she retrieved the device. The screen was dimly lit, displaying a single unread message. The sender, Arthur. The familiar ringtone, a cheerful melody Arthur had stubbornly refused to change, now sounded alien and mocking in the stillness of the house. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stared at the sender's name, a name that should have been relegated to memories not appearing on a brightly lit screen. The message was simple, cryptic. They know. Eleanor's mind reeled. It had to be a mistake. A scheduled message she had forgotten about? A glitch? But Arthur wasn't the type for scheduled messages, especially not ones this vague and unsettling. She showed the message to her daughter, Sarah, who immediately dismissed it as a cruel prank or a technical error. They checked the phone's settings, the sent messages. Nothing indicated this message had been composed or scheduled before Arthur's death. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, offered logical explanations, clinging to the tangible world in the face of the impossible. Yet, a flicker of unease danced in her eyes as she scrolled through the empty sent folder, a disquieting feeling that logic alone might not suffice. Sarah, a pragmatic young woman, took the phone to a local tech expert. He ran diagnostics, checked for malware, any logical explanation for the message. His findings were inconclusive. The phone's activity log showed no recent use. The message seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. He suggested a possible SIM card malfunction or a delayed network issue, but even he admitted the timing was disturbingly coincidental. The expert, a young man named Ben with a reputation for fixing the most stubborn technological glitches, scratched his head in genuine bewilderment. His usual confident demeanor was replaced by a hesitant uncertainty as he presented his findings, or rather, the lack thereof. The digital breadcrumbs simply didn't add up. Then it happened again. 2 days later, another message. This time, it arrived in the middle of the night, jolting Eleanor awake with its eerie chime. Don't trust anyone. The fear that had been a cold knot in Eleanor's stomach tightened into icy terror. This couldn't be a prank. Who would do such a thing? And how was it even possible? The silence of the night, once a comfort, now felt pregnant with unseen threats. The glow of the phone screen in the darkness illuminated Eleanor's pale face, her eyes wide with a primal fear that transcended logic. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a gnawing anxiety that clung to her like a shroud. The messages continued, each one more unsettling than the last. The soil is listening. He wasn't alone. They took more than just my breath. The content was fragmented, paranoid, painting a picture of Arthur's final days that was at odds with the peaceful passing they believed he had experienced. Eleanor and Sarah were consumed by a growing dread, a sense that something deeply wrong had occurred, something that Arthur was desperately trying to communicate from beyond the grave. The once familiar words now carried a sinister weight, each syllable echoing with unspoken horrors. The idyllic image of Arthur's final moments, surrounded by loved ones, began to crumble, replaced by a terrifying vision of isolation and unseen enemies. News of the messages began to spread through Blackwood Creek. Initially met with skepticism and disbelief, the undeniable reality of the incoming texts started to sow seeds of unease. Whispers of the supernatural mingled with theories of elaborate hoaxes. Some suggested Arthur had uncovered a dark secret before his death, a secret so dangerous it followed him even into the grave. Others spoke of restless spirits and digital omens. The comforting normalcy of Blackwood Creek began to fray at the edges, replaced by hushed conversations and nervous glances. Neighbors who had known Arthur for decades now looked at each other with a newfound suspicion, the once solid ground of their community beginning to shift beneath their feet. Sarah, refusing to succumb to superstition, launched her own investigation. She meticulously went through Arthur's belongings, his computer, his emails, searching for any clue that might explain the messages. She discovered cryptic notes, fragmented thoughts jotted down in the weeks leading up to his death, hinting at a growing paranoia, a feeling of being watched. "They're always there, just out of sight," one note read. "The silence isn't empty." Arthur's usually neat handwriting devolved into shaky scrawls, the margins filled with anxious doodles and question marks. His digital footprint, once a clear record of his organized life, now contained deleted files and encrypted folders, raising more questions than answers. She also looked into the circumstances of Arthur's illness, a rapid deterioration that had baffled the local doctor, Dr. Albright, a man who had known Arthur for years and prided himself on his diagnostic skills. Could there have been something more? Had Arthur suspected foul play? The messages from his phone, his digital ghost, seemed to suggest a darker truth, a medical mystery shrouded in something far more sinister. Dr. Albright, initially dismissive of Eleanor and Sarah's concerns about the messages, found himself revisiting Arthur's medical records, a nagging doubt beginning to erode his professional certainty. The messages weren't just text. Sometimes, they included photographs, distorted, grainy images that seemed to depict familiar locations in Blackwood Creek, but with unsettling anomalies. A shadowy figure lurking in the background of their garden, its features indistinct yet undeniably menacing. A strange symbol etched into the bark of a tree Arthur used to sit under, a symbol no one in town recognized. These visual fragments amplified the growing sense of dread, blurring the line between the real and the imagined, the living and the dead, turning familiar landscapes into sources of fear and suspicion. The police, initially dismissive, were eventually drawn into the bizarre case as the messages became more frequent and their content more disturbing. Detective Miller, a seasoned officer known for his level-headed approach, found himself increasingly perplexed by the lack of any logical explanation. They launched a formal investigation, focusing on anyone who might have had a motive to torment Eleanor and Sarah. Arthur's business dealings, seemingly straightforward, were scrutinized. Old rivalries long dormant were re-examined. But every lead seemed to dead end, leaving them with the inexplicable reality of a dead man's phone sending messages, a digital anomaly that defied their understanding of life and death. A renowned paranormal investigator, Dr. Evelyn Reed, known for her scientific approach to the supernatural, became intrigued by the case. She analyzed the phone, the messages, the photographs, looking for any rational explanation. But she was forced to admit that the evidence defied conventional logic. The phone showed no signs of external manipulation. The messages appeared spontaneously. The photographs contained elements that were difficult to explain through digital tampering, strange distortions and anomalies that resisted logical explanation. Dr. Reed, a woman who had built her career on debunking supernatural claims, found herself on the precipice of the truly inexplicable. As the investigation deepened, Sarah uncovered a hidden compartment in Arthur's study, behind a loose bookshelf containing a locked journal. With trembling hands, she managed to open it. The journal revealed Arthur's growing fear in the months leading up to his death. He wrote of being followed, of hushed conversations he couldn't quite decipher, of a sense that he was caught in a web of unseen forces. He mentioned a local historical society and a rare artifact they possessed, an artifact he believed held a dark secret connected to the town's past, a relic shrouded in local folklore and whispered tales of misfortune. The final entries were frantic, filled with paranoia and a desperate plea for help that never came. He wrote of them, knowing he was close to uncovering the truth, of the silence being a lie, of the earth holding secrets that should remain buried. The entry simply read, "My phone a witness." The ink was smudged, as if written in haste and fear, the final words trailing off into an illegible scratch. A sense of profound urgency and terror emanated from the faded pages, a silent scream captured in ink. The realization hit Sarah with chilling force. Arthur hadn't just been paranoid. He had been trying to tell them something, even in death. His phone wasn't haunted by a ghost. It was a conduit, a digital breadcrumb trail he had intentionally left behind, knowing that even if his voice was silenced, his technology might speak. His meticulous nature in life had extended beyond the grave, a desperate attempt to ensure the truth would eventually surface. The investigation shifted focus to the historical society and the artifact Arthur had mentioned. It was a small, intricately carved wooden box, rumored to have been brought to Blackwood Creek by its earliest settlers. Local legends spoke of it being tied to dark rituals and unexplained disappearances throughout the town's history. Tales dismissed as folklore until now. The box itself exuded an unsettling aura, its dark wood intricately carved with symbols that seemed to writhe in the dim light of the Historical Society's archives. As the police examined the box, they discovered a hidden mechanism, a false bottom that concealed a collection of old photographs and documents. These materials revealed a disturbing truth. A secret society had existed in Blackwood Creek for generations, a group that maintained its power and secrecy through ruthless means, silencing anyone who threatened to expose them. Arthur, in his research for a local history project, had stumbled upon their existence and their dark legacy, a network of influential figures who had manipulated the town's affairs for decades, their secrets buried deep within the community's foundations. The messages from Arthur's phone weren't a supernatural phenomenon. They were a delayed, digital cry for justice. Before his death, knowing his time was limited, Arthur had somehow programmed his phone to send these cryptic messages, time to be discovered after his burial, hoping to expose the truth he had uncovered. The distorted photographs were likely taken by him, subtle clues pointing towards the society's activities and locations, a desperate attempt to guide his loved ones towards the horrifying truth. The revelation sent shockwaves through Blackwood Creek. The seemingly peaceful community was forced to confront a dark undercurrent that had been hidden for centuries. The secret society, its members holding positions of power and influence, was finally brought to light, their reign of secrecy shattered by the persistent digital echo of a man they thought they had silenced forever. The arrests that followed sent tremors through the town, the names of respected citizens now whispered with fear and disbelief. Arthur Jenkins was buried, but his voice, amplified by the technology he carried, spoke from beyond the grave. His phone became his testament, a digital witness that refused to let the truth remain buried with him. It serves as a chilling reminder that in our hyper-connected world, even in death, our digital footprints can linger, capable of revealing secrets and demanding justice, proving that even when they are gone, their stories and their messages can still find a way to be heard, echoing through the digital ether long after the earth has settled on their graves. This story leaves us with a haunting question. Can technology truly carry echoes from beyond the grave? What are your thoughts? Discuss this chilling possibility in the comments and share this video with anyone who loves a good scare.